Yo, what's up, guys? Welcome to the second installment of our Black Friday How to Clone Any Online Store tutorial series here from the team at Divi Engine. My name's Roby, and I'm going to walk you through the second installment where we're going to actually start building out those pages that are heavily inspired by the Abercrombie & Fitch website. Looking on the page here, you'll see the basic layout of the Abercrombie & Fitch homepage. And then we'll see what we're going to be building is this site right here that draws heavy inspiration. We've got our top products up here and then the various categories for men and women shopping. And we're going to be building out this global footer here. We're going to build the global header and then we're going to build out the body. So strap on in. And if you guys haven't done the previous installment, part 1, where we cover installing and configuring WooCommerce, definitely go back and do that first unless you already had it configured. So without further ado, let's get started. Alright folks, so last time where we left off, I left you with this pretty uninspiring landing page. But as I told you guys back then, this was just to put in something so that we can set the landing page, which we're going to be editing in this installment of the tutorial series. So what we're going to do is we're going to hop into the backend of our site right here. And then what we need to do is we go to Pages. We'll look at all pages. And then we see the home page here that we created before. We're going to hit Edit right next to that button. Okay, so Divi's popped up here with our pretty ugly design. We're going to go ahead and enable the Visual Builder. And now what I'm going to do is I am going to actually delete this slider out of here. And we're going to start putting in some settings. Now, when we look at the Abercrombie & Fitch site here, it's got this tan background and this orange text and all that fun stuff. And we've got this image slider effect going on. Now, we already looked into what the colors were. We did that by inspecting the page. And there's also various Chrome plugins you can utilize that can pick colors off a page. So that simplifies your life with that. So hopping back here to the back end, we're going to go ahead and set the section settings. We need to change the background color. And we're going to select our tan color here. And you'll see that that matches up with the tan color he used right there. And then what we need to do is we're going to change some padding settings here as well. So we just go to the Design tab, Spacing, and we're just going to set all the padding to 0. And we'll just hook them up like so. And then save that. And now what we're going to do, we're going to set up our columns so that it fills the right amount of space. Open that up. We're going to actually add a second column. And now you can see we've got our 2 columns there. I'm just going to go back real quick. They're evenly spaced. And you can double check that. If you just come here, it'll show you which type of column layout you have. We've got the 2 equally spaced columns. And we're going to go back into the settings. We'll go to Design. We're going to take a look at the sizing. And then what we want to do is want to set the columns to equal heights. And then we're going to set the width to 90%. And the max width, we're going to max that out to 2560 for my screen. And that would be it for right now. Now we're going to go ahead and add a slider back in. So let's just click on the plus. We'll type slider. And we can drop that right in there. And for our purposes here, we're going to be using about 3 different slides. Now, I pulled some images from Pexels. You can pull them from wherever, but that's what we'll do in this portion of the video. Okay, so in our slider here, we have 3 slides. Like I said, we're going to copy one of these ones here. And what we're going to do is we're going to go into each slide first. So what we're going to do, first thing, actually, I'm getting ahead of myself. We're going to turn off all the controls in the slide. So now it's just a blank slide that you see over there. And then what we're going to want to do is we're going to turn on Design and then Animation. And we're just going to turn on Automatic Animation. And then we're going to set that speed to 2000 milliseconds, which just basically means it'll change your slide every 2 seconds. If we go over to padding, where's my spacing? There we go. in spacing, what we're going to do is we're just going to set all the padding to 0 for the slider. So we're going to go 0, link it up, 0, link it up. And now all the padding is gone, and you'll see why we do that in just a moment. Now, the way that we are going to be able to get all the slides to work together is we need to go add our images to all of the slides. But the first thing we do is we're going to delete this out, the title. We're going to delete the button text. There goes our button for this slide. And we're going to delete out the content. Now, one thing actually that will make this a little bit easier, and I skipped that, is just to go back here. And let's just go ahead and delete these other two, and now we will copy them. Now what it does, it just basically sets all of that up for us ahead of time. And I'm going to go to text here at the top. Now this is an important step. Now what you're going to want to do is all the images will be linked in the text version of this blog post on the site. But you're going to want to go to the back end here. I'm going to go to my media. And you can see I've got my images uploaded here already. These are my 3 slides. So you're going to need the URL for each of these. So you're just going to say your copy URL to clipboard. You'll come back and you're going to write an image tag. Just do that by writing img src equals apostrophe and then close that out, paste the URL, and there you see the image on the page. You just need to close that. And then that's all set. Now you're going to repeat this for each image and for each slide. So that's slide 1. So we'll go to slide 2. Same thing. We're on text already. We'll hop back here to our media library. We can close that out. Next image, copy URL, come back, and we'll go img src equals that whole fun thing. And that will be good as well. src, that looks good to me. And say OK. And then lastly, for the last one, oops, wrong way. This is where we want to be. Get this one, copy the URL to clipboard. And we'll just img src equals boom. OK. So all of our images are in here, and it's got this weird animation going from the left side. One other thing we just want to do also is we're going to come down here, say background is deleted. Okay, that's good. We'll just make sure that's transparent. And then also just for each slide, well, that seemed to have taken care of that other issue. Great. Okay, so now we see that the sliding is happening. It's sliding up. We don't really want that. So what we're going to do is that we're going to add an animation that makes it slide from right to left. And that's actually super easy to do. All you need to do is go to the text blog post. And in that post, you're going to find code snippet 1. And what you're going to do is you're just going to copy that. And you're going to edit the slider again. Oh, come on. Yeah, Divi's funny like that sometimes. When you're already in it, it doesn't let you get into the settings. It's a real pain, but that's fine. So we go to the Advanced tab, Custom CSS, and you'll copy that one line of CSS. And if you want, you can copy the comment too if you want to make sure you know what it does. And then what you do is, all you do is you just go to the slide animation bit, and it's going to be for the slide description, since we're putting it in the text. And now you see that it's pulling in right to left. And this is just one of the built-in Divi animations that are included. So super easy to do. And, you know, as you can see, it's got a dramatic effect on what we're doing here. So that's kind of cool. And I hope you guys are still with me. There's about 13 snippets in this bit. So we get down and dirty with some code. And it makes us do some pretty cool stuff, not natively possible in Divi. So just bear with me. We're going to have some fun doing this. So let's continue building out this left portion of the screen here. We're going to add 3 text modules for these 3 lines of text. And then what we're going to do is we're going to add 2 buttons and add some code to put them next to each other like that. So let's get back to the back end here. And we're going to go ahead and add a text module. So we're just going to put text and find that one. We're going to drop it in. And then all we need to do is go ahead and delete the content that's there. And we're going to put in the new. And if I drag this over, you'll see that it's up here. Very uninspiring still for the time being, but we're going to fix that. We're going to go to design, text, and then for the font, we're going to use our Poppins font. And the reason it's not hitting with the Poppins font automatically here is because we're not using a heading tag, because Poppins only goes to the heading. So we just manually selected it, which is fine. We're going to give it the text color of orange. And then that's a little tiny, so we're going to make it 38. Good. That's looking a little bit better, nice and big. And then simply we'll just add another text module. Text. And you can put whatever you like, but we are going to go with the Divi collection as a H2 tag. So we're going to say the Divi, we're in the visual folder here, or the visual text editor. We're going to go to this one, just so that we can input the HTML for that header H2 tag. Just Divi engine collection. There you go. Even us pros make mistakes sometimes. It's part of the learning here. Okay, so we've got that. We're going to go over to the design tab. We're going to go to H2, and you'll see that it automatically inputted the Poppins default font for our heading, but we want to make this ultra bold, and we're going to make it also have that. Oh, actually, what we need to do is we need to select the H2, because if you change H1, it's going to change the H1. We don't have a H1, so H2, ultra bold, and there you see it pops in. We're going to select the orange color again, and now we want the text nice and big. So we're going to go with 52. That looks good to me. And that is the end of that one. And now we just need to put in the next text module for the last line here. So text. I'm going to delete this content out. And we are going to type in just, if I can type, just in time for Black Friday. Great. We're going to make some changes to this text also. This is just plain text, so we just go to the text section. Want this to be light, so it kind of offsets the new Divi collection, which we of course want to be the emphasized part. We need to set it to our orange color from our palette that we set earlier in the previous installment of the tutorial series. And we'll just change the text to about 21 as not to overshadow the rest of the stuff on the page. Now, when we look at the Abercrombie & Fitch site, it's nice in the middle of the column. And unfortunately, Divi doesn't give you a native way of aligning this right in the middle. So we're going to have to do some more code magic, and that will take us to snippet number 2. Now, the way that we add this snippet is we need to go to the columns. And what we're essentially going to do is we're going to put these 3 modules and the other modules that we'll be adding after this to the center vertically of the column. So we go into the row settings. And since we're working with column 1, which is where the text modules live, we'll go into the settings for that one. And we'll go to advanced and then custom CSS. And then what you do from the blog post, you're going to pull snippet number 2. I'm copying and pasting it as we speak. And you're going to be putting it on the main element. So when I pop that in there, it says align self, and what it does it in the center spot of the allotted space, and that looks fantastic already. So that is good stuff. So now let's take a look here. We need to add these 2 buttons. So let's do that. And we will go ahead and hover here. We're going to add a button. Bam. There is one button. Now we see that it's not the orange coloring and the size and all that fun stuff that we'd like. So we'll come back, and then the first one is gonna say shop women's. We're gonna put the ladies first for a change. shop women's. And we will actually change the URL here to our category for women's. Now, easy way to find that, we'll go back to the back end here. We're done with these images. And if you recall, in one of the previous steps, we set up some product categories on the part 1 video. And you can get that URL just by right-clicking View on Woman here. And you're just going to copy the link address. You'll come back here, and then you'll put in that button link URL. Now I'm going to delete this first part because that lets this product category live relative within our Divi install, and that will be good for the button URL. Now what we need to do also, since we're going to customize the default style for the button here, so we're going to go to Design and Button. We're going to say Use Custom Styles for Button. Oh, that was a little fast. And then we want to go ahead and change the margin left. Oh, actually, before we do that, let's fix the color first. You see when we do orange, immediately goes there, adds the orange, but there's some stuff still that we want to change. So we're going to change that. We're going to change the button hover background to orange. So we're going to click that hover icon, make sure that it's on hover, and then we'll select orange. So you'll see when we hover it now, oh, well, we'll need to click out of that first. Let's do that. Now when we hover it, it goes orange, but we also need to change that text to now be white when we hover it. Otherwise, orange on orange makes it invisible. So just going back to button. Here we selected our text color. We're going to do the same. We're going to select the hover icon. We're going to select the white. Oh, no, not yet. Roll that back. We are going to set that as orange at first. And then when we hover it, we'll set it to white. That's fantastic. And then the icon snuck in there. So we'll just scroll down and make sure that the icon is switched off. Click OK with that. And there we go. That's looking great already. Now let's just compare the size of the buttons here. And that's pretty comparable. Maybe we want to take the text down just a notch. So let's just go back in here, Design, Button. And then the button text size is going to be governing the size of, the actual button. So we're going to maybe make that 16. And then we want to do one more thing. We're going to add a snippet here, which is going to make the button nice and wide, as with this one right here on the Abercrombie & Fitch site. So to do that, we go to button, or the actual snippet number 3, which is just going to set the width of the button and also just align the text in the middle. So we're going to go to Advanced in the button settings, Custom CSS, Main Element. And then when we add that in, you see, boom, it's looking great so far. We've got our snippet right in here. And we are happy with that so far. Now, next up, we'll just duplicate this button to save ourselves some time. We're going to edit it. Of course, we want to change this to Shop Men's. We're going to alter the URL. Now, again, if we go look here, we see that the URL, if you look at the bottom bar there, it's men. So we'll just come back here, delete the WO. We're going to keep all that relative in the same window. That's fine. And we'll head to design. There's really nothing to do there. And margin left on hover. Yeah, we'll add that in a second. So there we go. But now we're stuck with 2 buttons that are above each other. And Divi doesn't really allow you to put 2 buttons right next to each other. So what we need to do is that we need to go add some code to the theme options that are going to make these buttons end up in line. So let's go to the back end of our site again. We're going to go to Divi and then theme options. When you're on this page, you'll scroll down and you'll see the custom CSS. This is where you add any custom code that applies to a more global scale on your site. So we have to add snippet number 4, and we will just go and copy that code, and I will paste that in there, and you'll see that it's commented with snippet number 4, and it tells you what it does. And what we're doing is we're creating a class called DE Inline Buttons, and we're going to make those buttons display inline block. Now, if I save that and I come over here, and let's just save this page really quick. I'll take a moment. Okay, then go back to the front end and refresh. And we'll see that we already have a pretty cool site that has a much nicer header than it did before, but our buttons are still here. So we need to do one more step in this process, which is to come back to the back end. All we need to do is go on this column settings. We're going to go advanced, CSS ID, and classes. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take this class that we created, the DE inline buttons. I'm going to select that. I'm going to copy that. I'm going to come back here, and in the classes here, and let me actually put this on visual. Scroll down a bit. We're going to head ahead and paste that in. And immediately you see the buttons pop right next to each other, but there's still something wrong. Abercrombie and Fitch's got a little gap there. So we're going to want to go ahead and add that gap, and that's super easy to do. We'll just save that really. And go to the second button, the Shop Men's one. We're going to go to Design. We're going to go to Spacing. And now all we need to do is add a little bit of left margin, and I think 25 pixels is pretty good. And there you see it created the space for us. These buttons aren't on top of each other any longer, and it looks great. Now, let's take a look at what that looks like responsively. And yeah, okay, well, that's a little weird that they're off, but that's because that second button still has the 25 pixels regardless of what device you're browsing on. On tablets, there's enough space, they go next to each other. But on a cell phone, it's going to look weird. So we're going to edit that button. We're going to go to Design. We're going to go to Spacing. And then we're going to go to the device responsive settings. Now, all we need to do is make sure that it's on cell phone and put in 0 pixels. And it'll pop right in there, and it looks great now. And if we go to mobile, tablet, and desktop, everything looks fantastic. Awesomeness. And that's it. We just built that header, and it didn't take us that long. It looks fantastic. So let's go and move on to this section where they've got some products. Looks like we need to put in another text model here for this new arrival section. And then we need to add maybe a shop module that adds these items on the page. So coming back, we'll go ahead and just add a new section. So regular section. It will have one column. And then what we need to do is just change some of the section settings before we add the row in there. I'll add a default row anyway. We're going to go to Design. We're going to go to Spacing. You'll see that we do stuff with spacing a lot, and it's just to get the spacing correct with, between different sections and so forth. So we're just going to put some bottom margin at 0. I'm going to put the padding bottom at 0 as well. You'll see the page kind of jumped up there a little bit when we did that. That's just indicating that we removed that padding. Now, already created a single row column for us, which is exactly what we wanted. And all we'll do is we're going to drop a text module in there again. Yeah, there we go. And then for the text, it's just going to be new arrivals. We'll add this longer dash, and then we'll say see what is hot. I'm no fashionista, but that works for me. Actually, if I go and delete this out and I do 1, 2, 3, 4, it should make it a fun straight line, but it didn't. But that's okay. That's not the worst of our worries. We're going to go ahead and bold this first portion. And then we'll italicize that on the right. Gives it a nice little contrast there. Looks kind of great. So what next? We're going to go to Design, Text, and then we're going to bold the text. And what we'll do also is go ahead and just increase the size of it a bit to about 44 pixels. There we go. And we will go ahead and also make sure that it's centered on the page by centering it right here. Let me see if I can do something about this text right here. Here it looks great. Up here something funky is happening. Let me see if I can unbold this text. Strong and blum blum blum. Oh, maybe, you know, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the bolding out here, and I think that will fix what we're seeing on the front end. So maybe if I just go light here, there we go. That's what I wanted. That looks much better. You can add a symbol code for this dash in the middle. I'm not to worry about it right now, but you know, if it's really bothering you, that's something you can certainly do. And that's it for this part. So let's add another single column row, because we need to add our shop module now that's going to have these 4 columns with the newest arrivals. So I'm going to come back here and add that in. Let's quickly just change some of the sizing settings on here. Let's go ahead and go to design here, sizing. We want a custom gutter because we're going to want some space between the items, you know, in the various columns that we're going to be creating. We're going to set the width to 100%. We're going to drag this over to be 2560. And that should do it for this. And then we can just go ahead and add the shop module in by typing shop. Quickly, it'll drop a bunch of products on the page there. But that's a lot of stuff. We just want 4 products. Great. I'm going to only select the latest products because this is looking at the new arrivals. So let's see what the newest items are in our store. That looks good. And then as far as the column layout and so forth goes, that stays at defaults. But we are going to go over to the design settings because this overlay is not something we really love. We're going to take the icon and make that invisible. So now there's no icon. And then the overlay background color, we do like the white, but we are just going to lighten that up a little bit. So we'll select the white. We'll bump it down to about 20% opacity. There we go. Now when we hover, it just gives that very subtle indication that we're actually hovering over this. So that is that little bit right there. Now, what we also want to do is that we want to remove some of the margin here at the bottom of the page. And we need to remove these various elements. And then there will also be a little artifact here when we remove all these elements. So that's also pretty easy to do, but those are going to be labeled snippet 5, 6, and 7 in the article. And they're relatively easy to add, so not too much work to do here. All we need to do is go into the shop module settings. We're going to go to advanced, custom CSS, and you'll see that there's in snippet number 5, which is just removing the margin on the bottom. We'll just apply that to the product. And you'll see this bumped up immediately as soon as we did that. And then what we need to do to remove these various titles, we're going to add a display none CSS portion on all those items. So we're going to be applying that. Let's start from the top here. Oh, what did I do? Oh, that just needs to be deleted out. It's not happy with that code. That should be good. We're going to take away this on sale. We're going to be taking away not the image, but the overlay is fine. Title, that takes the title out. If you have ratings, this will take the ratings out. This will take the star rating out. This will take the price out. We want to make sure the old price is out in case that was there. And save that. Now you still see this little artifact that's right there. That's at the bottom. We need to add some CSS in a different spot for that, but we've already been there. You can either do that in the theme options, but I'm going to show you another way right now, which is as simple as just adding a code module. And within that code module, but let's add it really quick, code. There we go. We're going to paste snippet number 7. So pasting that in there, and you see that artifact immediately disappeared. And all it's doing, it's targeting the price. It's an artifact from the price. And just adding that display none to it also. And then you're good to go. Super quick. You added the products right on there. That was so easy. Okay, so let's look what's next. So we've got these. Oh, we are missing some buttons, aren't we? So why don't we go ahead and add some buttons? And we can do this super easily by just going and copying buttons we already made. So let's go ahead and copy the one from the header, copy module, come back down. And these buttons can't really live in the same space as where our little shop module is at the moment. What we need to do is add a new 2-column row. So let's go ahead and do that. 2 columns. And then we'll just change 1 column setting, which is going to be relating to the padding. And we'll go in here and we'll say spacing. And all we're going to do is put the padding for the top so those buttons are nice and snug to the shop at 0 pixels. And that's the only setting you need to do. Okay, well, there's another way around this. Just copy it this way, pull it down, and then drop it in that first column. And copy this one because that one had some of that padding in there still. We don't want it to mess stuff up. And we'll place it as so. Now we're going to want to make this full width as we have done with the shop module above and the row that contains it. And the reason is to have these buttons be in the center of that space. So we're just going to bump up the width to 100%, make that 100 or 2560, save that. And then when you go into the button settings, design or alignment, you can center it, easy as that. And for this one, again, we just need to change this to say men's and fix the link that just goes to category men. Oh, of course, forgot one important step: design, align, center. Great. We do need to make some changes to the coloring because we've got the cool blue color here. We're going to go to design still, button. We're going to turn off the custom design styles. There we go. And I'm noticing that the text here is getting rather large. I'm going to change the default text size for the buttons in a second here. So just go back here, design, button, switch this off, and save that. Let's quickly save the page. We'll look at what it looks like on the front end as well. Okay, let's refresh it. And there we go. These look great. These look great, but they can be a little smaller. So let's just go to the theme customizer. So just up here, you go theme customizer. And we'll access the buttons here. And just give it a second to load. Buttons. Let's come down here just so we can see what we're doing. Button style. And then in here, we're going to change the text size to be 16. And now the buttons are the same exact size. We'll publish that and we'll exit. Just thinking about it. And there we go. Okay. We are good to continue forthwith. Okay, so let's take a look and see what is going on in the next part here. So next up, they've got 2 really nice big images with some marketing copy here. And then again, they want you to go shopping. So they are pushing for the category buttons that we already have on our page. So let's go back. We'll go into the visual builder. Go down and we'll add another section. So add section, regular. And then what we want to do is we're going to add a 2-column row. And then we'll change some of the settings. So the first setting that we'll tackle here is the sizing. Get out of that. So row settings, design, sizing. And what we'll do is we're going to go ahead and change the gutter width to yes. We'll change it to 2 because we'll still want it to maintain some of the spacing between the images. And we'll equalize column heights for good measure. And then we'll just say have this be 90%. And then again, we're just going to drag this all the way over to the right so that it takes up all the real estate on the screen. And then we say, yeah, buddy, we like that. And now next up, we need these images. We're ready for the content that goes in these columns. So all we do is we add an image module, drop that in there. And what we are going to do is select our images that we have already uploaded to our site. Now, what you can do is, of course, use your own images, or you can use the ones in the blog post. It's up to you guys what you do. So we're going to put a lady for the first one, since that is for the ladies. We'll update that. And we have that in there now. And go for image number 2. Type in image. Select our gentleman. Upload. And that is looking good. Now, it seems like we've got a little bit of a padding issue here. When we look at this one, this is a little bit, actually, it's not too different. I'm happy with that. I was about to change some of the padding settings, but it doesn't seem like we need to. If it bothers you, of course, go ahead and add that in there. If, it's better that you're happy with what you're doing. Okay, so we need to add some text below these. And we're just going to go save ourselves some time, select this new arrivals. We're going to copy the module, and hopefully this works this time. Divi is a fickle beast. Yeah, it's still not giving me the options. Here we go. Copy. Drag it down. And right below our image, when it feels like it wants to give us the opportunity, there we go. We've got our new arrivals in there. And we're going to go start changing the copy and add some padding to it. So I decided with going with some fun copy that says, women are from Venus. Women are from Venus. Because the ladies are more important. Oh, and before we go on, let's just add a little bit more spacing here. Add some top padding. This makes it not sit as much on it. As you can see, these guys did the same thing with their copy. It's not sitting right on top of that, so it just looks a bit better. And what was the style they did? They've got that lighter text. What we did in our final version was to have just some italicized text. So all we're going to do is we're going to copy this one, drag it on over, and then, as you guessed it, us men are from Mars. And I'm just going to take that bolding off, italicize it, and this gives it a little bit of a contrast, looks pretty good, and save that. And of course that padding's included since we copied this module right here, just to save ourselves some time. Now, on the topic of saving time, guess what? We're just going to copy a button again. Not falling into that Divi trap again where it's not copying it for me. Click it, drag it down, women's, and then we can go shop men's, duplicate it, drag her down, and boom. That looks pretty darn good. Now, anything else we need to do here? Let's take a look at the Abercrombie & Fitch homepage. Looks like the last step is just this little bit where it puts the, they're probably using some localized code about where the closest store location is. You can put anything in here. There's a bunch of different ways you can do different things. We want to keep it pretty simple, so we're just going to kind of mimic this, but this is a space for you to get creative with and do whatever you feel works best for you. So let me go ahead back to the back end, and we'll be adding yet another single column row. Add that in there. And then for this single column row, we're not going to be changing anything just yet. Maybe we want a second to work with some of the padding stuff. But we'll just, for now, add a text module. And then we're going to go to the text portion again. because we're going to be adding some H tags to this for the heading. So the top first line, we're going to add a H5, and the copy that we're going to put in is shop your local store and get it faster. And we'll close that H5 tag, which is just the size of the heading is what that H5 means. And when we add the visual here again, all we want to do is we're going to just add that italicization again to just give it a little bit of a differentiation on there. So that's the first one. And then we're going to add a H2 to make the text a little bit bigger, which expresses the location. So we're going to say Los Angeles /H2. Fantastic. That's looking decent. And then lastly, we're going to add one more line in there, which is just going to be, I'm going to copy and paste this. It'll be on the Abercrombie and Fitch site, the exact same, just to save a tiny little bit of time. And all it says is shop in-store or choose in-store pickup, online, curbside, where available. We're helping you feel safe no matter how you shop. So that's just going to do that for us and make things a little easier. And let's go ahead to the design portion. I'm going to tell all the text that we'd like it to be centered, please. And another thing that we're going to want to do, and this is what I mentioned with the column section here, where we're going to add some settings, is that we want on the desktop version, because as you can see here, it's nice and tight and narrow. We're going to make it be the same. And the way we're going to do it is just change the width here to be 33% of the screen real estate. And then we just want to make sure that there's enough space here for the users to be able to navigate and things that are on top of each other, and that there aren't any like weird text walls. So let's save that. And when we look at our Abercrombie and Fitch site, pretty much recreated something that is heavily inspired by their look here. Now, one thing before we move on to starting with the headers and stuff, we want to make sure that this is responsive. So let's check the responsive settings and see what this looks like. So the header looks great. That animation looks good. Oh, well, it looks like we've got a problem here with this text that is overlapping. And what we need to do is we need to go adjust the line height for this one. So let's just go into this and go to design. And when we go to text and scroll down a little bit, we're going to go back into the responsive settings and we make sure that it's on the cell phone. And we're going to put a line height of 1. And you see that 1 immediately fixes that and makes it look much better again. Now we'll scroll down again. We see our products here. That looks fine. These buttons look fine. Oh, and yeah, we have the same problem. So we need to do the same thing, design, text, and pop that 1 EM text line height in there. Fixes the problem. Oh, actually, you know what? I was doing the wrong thing there. Make sure we click the cell phone for responsive settings, set the line height to 1, because that way on desktop it will still look perfect. And as we guessed, it's probably the same thing here. Design, text line height, click responsive settings, set the line height to 1 EM, and that is good. And this is looking a little bit narrow now. Let's change this for mobile settings. Let's change the sizing of it. And here we've got the width. Give me the settings. There we go. Mobile settings. And oh, that's set width. Mobile settings. We go to the cell phone and we want that to be 80. Oh, not 80 pixels though. We want it to be 80%. There we go. That looks much better. Let's see what it looks like on a tablet. Tablet looks great still. So we're happy with that. So we have made this page fully responsive, which is one of the things you should always do as you're building your site. It's very annoying to come back at a later point to try and fix this type of stuff. So we're going to update this, and then we'll take a quick look and see what it looks like on the front end of the site. Okay, let's refresh. Okay, scrolling down. Everything looks good. I think we're ready to move on to the next part of this tutorial.